Well, hello everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome to the back to the party. Hope you guys have been having a good holiday. Got all the Black Friday deals that you were looking for. We're back from our little holiday hiatus here.
Did you miss us?
We've missed this. I'll tell you that much.
It's just been one thing after another. Crazy week.
Yeah, and honestly, I was wanting to get this one in before like the weather really got cold. But now I think it's a good time because it'll be we're going to be doing our weekly highlight on the Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a very fall core movie.
I'm looking at the leaves falling outside the window right now.
Yeah.
And it just is setting the tone perfectly.
This is just like this is the time of year to check something out like this because not only will it make you miss the nice fall days that we were having where it was 60 and now it's freezing cold, but you can just curl up on the couch with some apple cider, some hot cocoa, whatever. And this is just a nice little
comfort movie.
Nice little brown and red and yellow and
stop motion
stuff.
Hey, surprise!
Incredibly charming.
We like stop motion.
Yeah, we also like Wes Anderson. This is the second weekly highlight that we've done with Wes Anderson. I believe the first one was Grand Budapest Hotel, which was our second weekly highlight. This is now number 6.
6 on the highlight, 12 episodes.
Yeah, we'll take a little break from Wes Anderson at some point, but
give the people what they want. They voted on it.
Truly.
They could have had the Coen brothers.
Mr. Fox is certainly a good one to be marking. So let's just break into it. This is Wes Anderson's first stop motion animated film. I did not see this one like anywhere even remotely near when it came out. I actually didn't watch this one until college with a couple of friends of mine, and it's been a mainstay ever since then. I really love this movie. It's super charming. 2009.
It's just such an easy watch. Like it's a tight what's the runtime?
Hour and 40.
Yeah,
I think.
I think it's shorter than that even. But it's just so easy, so enjoyable. I love this.
Good feature length movie. But Wes had been working on this one with Noah Baumbach. They wrote the script together, and it was adapted from the Roald Dahl novel, and it turned into a pretty dang good little movie, if I do say so myself. So I think this came out before. I know it came out before Grand Budapest, before Moonrise Kingdom. But
this was 2009.
Yeah, I can't remember what his movie was before this, but this was definitely a departure for him. This is commonly marked in his career as like a maturing point for him because he's starting to. I think I talked about this a little bit on the Grand Budapest Hotel, but he's moving from seeing the world through the eyes of a childlike innocence to moving to seeing it as a little bit more of an adult. He's definitely like picking up the pieces of questioning identity and these kind of things throughout this movie, which is a big core theme of Mr. Fox, who is played by George Clooney. His wife is played by Meryl Streep. Bill Murray plays the Badger, who's Mr. Fox's good friend. Jason Schwartzman plays Ash, and Eric Chase Anderson as Christopherson, Owen Wilson, Willem Dafoe are also in this movie. Just another, people want to be involved with the Wes Anderson project, and this is...
People just love working with him.
He's a great one to work with, and these are like mainstay people working with him. George Clooney, not so much, but pretty much everybody else has been in multiple movies with him. They just love working on projects with him. He's...
Has Meryl Streep, or was... I don't... Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that she...
I can't remember. Yeah. I know that she definitely wanted to be a part of this project. Wes was talking about in an interview how The Fantastic Mr. Fox was the first book he ever owned.
I saw that. That was one of my fun facts.
Yeah, it's amazing that he just wanted to bring this vision to life, but it's a damn good movie. So if you haven't seen Fantastic Mr. Fox yet, pause this, go watch it.
Our usual disclaimer here.
It's a nice short one, but we're gonna do a quick synopsis on this. We're trying to speed up the synopses a little bit, just for the sake of flow of the whole thing. So let's talk about the Fantastic Mr. Fox. Now we open on Mr. Fox and his wife, who are raiding a squab farm. They're trying to get some squab, and Mr. Fox accidentally triggers a fox trap, caging himself and his wife Felicity. She reveals her pregnancy to him and pleads with him to find a safer job if they escape, and he agrees. it cuts to 2 years later, showing that they did in fact escape, which it puts in parentheses as 12 fox years. The foxes and their son Ash are living in a hole, as foxes do. Mr. Fox is a newspaper columnist now. I mean, he's retired from his life of thievery.
I really something that I noticed. I rewatched this movie the other night when we meant to record the podcast, and then we didn't. And then I got too enthralled by the movie to walk away. Excuse me. I'm a little sicko, so you'll have to pardon my growl and my sniffles. But anyways, something I noticed about this movie is Mr. Fox is a lot like Mr. Incredible from The Incredibles. Yeah. There's so many parallels between the two. It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how that works. I commonly regard The Incredibles as one of the better animated movies ever made, just because it really, like, it deals with some heavy stuff as far as like family relationships go, more than you would expect out of a Disney Pixar movie. And that was back when they were, I won't even say a little less tame, but they were willing to tackle stuff like that. And
that was back when Disney felt able to tackle stuff like that. I feel like they've trapped themselves.
They've just kind of been, I don't know, castrated isn't the right term for it, but it's sterilized in one form or another. Can't wait to go see
Moana 2.
Yeah, cut back to our Moana 2 weekend roundup later this week. Yeah, so basically Mr. Fox is just living in his hole. He doesn't want to live in his hole. He wants to go back. He wants to do something with his life.
Like so Mr. Incredible.
He hatches a plan with his friend Badger and a squad of other animals to raid 3 different farms. One of which makes apple cider and turkeys. What do the other two make?
It makes turkeys. I don't know why
they
that made me
breed
laugh.
turkeys.
Make that turkey.
Breed turkeys. How was your turkey for Thanksgiving, by the way? Leave a note down in the comments.
Tell us how your turkey was.
Yeah.
Bogus, Bunce, and Bean are the farmers, and I can't remember exactly what they all produce, but I know that like mainstays we're looking at like apple cider, and I think the squab are one of them, and I don't know.
So
they are characterized all by their height, by what they eat, and by what they produce. Though.
Yeah, just some more painstaking Wes Anderson detail. During this whole planning, one of Mr. Fox's nephews has come to stay with them. His dad has double lung pneumonia, and so he's coming to stay with the Foxes for a little while. His name is Christopherson, as Emily said, but he is a little bit of a he's just about good at everything.
He's a golden boy.
He's a golden child, and Ash, the Fox's son, does not like it very much. He's super jealous of
Ash is kind of like just super matter of fact.
He's just moody,
and just. Ugh.
He's very.
He's just a teenage boy.
He's a poor little artistic boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny to see their dynamic. Like, you see them playing sports together and in science class together, and Christopherson is just kicking Ash out of the water. Kicking Ash.
I was gonna say it.
But yeah, it's a fun dynamic between the two of them. You got to play whack bat.
The whack bat scene is down as one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. There's some incredibly good stuff in here. So, long story short, it eventually turns into like this heist story. Mr. Fox gets discovered during one of the heists, and the farmers try to hunt him down. In doing so, they destroy a tree that he has bought as new real estate, a big investment for their family, because they decided that they did want to move out of the hole. It devolves into like this. The animals are all being hunted, so they all have to hide in the sewers. It's
kind of like you said, like a heist movie or a revenge story. Like there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there's plenty to float around. So by the time they get down to the sewers, everybody's more or less fed up with Mr. Fox. I mean, he's just been leading them on this grand adventure that has really resulted in nothing but them just not really being able to consistently survive in the way that they would have if they had just been, going about normally. So people are pissed off at him for disrupting the status quo. And he has to find a way to make it all better, which he does. And there's a big final showdown where he goes to the last of the 3. One of the farmers has chopped off his tail and taken it with him. They try to go recover his tail at the last of the. I can't remember. Is it Bogus Bunce or Bean?
I think that one is Bogus, because I think he's kind of like the head honcho.
He's the head
that you're
honcho,
dealing
yeah,
with.
for sure. The other guys just kind of listen to
Well,
him.
they have Christopherson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they do. They captured Christopherson, so they have to get him back, and Ash actually is the one that saves him.
Well, because it's that's what happens. Ash and Christopherson go to recover the tail.
Yeah.
And then they get Christopherson, and then then
right.
Mr. Fox has to go in.
So Mr. Fox goes in. He recovers the tail. He rescues Ash.
Christopherson. Ash is his son.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little hazy on the details. Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's been a little while since I've watched it. I should have rewatched it.
It's so good.
But yeah, just a nice little closing sequence where everybody's fighting each other. There's some awesome like stunts in this. There's some awesome effects. And everything kind of winds back up where it needs to be. Mr. Fox recovers his tail. They're leaving the place, and he meets a wolf, which he's been talking about for the whole movie as like one of his biggest fears. He just doesn't like the wolves, and so he meets a wolf who's completely wild, and they have like this moment of recognition between each other. It's so great. But yeah, the movie essentially ends there. I mean, it's just them recovering the tail. They managed to make it back to the house. They're like, all right, we've reinstated the status quo. Mr. Fox is like, all right, I'm done stealing now. I've decided to, in Mr. Incredible fashion, retire, and I'd rather just be with my family. So, the end. That's a quick synopsis of Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's just a really, really sweet and snippy movie. Like it moves
like nonstop.
Yeah, it is really got like this clipping pace between dialogue. It really just does not hold anything back. And it's just really fun to watch. I mean, there are so many unbelievably well animated sequences in here, and the stop motion is just top notch. I mean,
there's just so much to be said for just the beauty of stop motion. Like I think it like adds delight and to everything, and it's just so intricate and. Especially in this movie, I feel it feels so tangible. Like I could pick up this and set and eat it. Like
definitely, it has that feeling to it where you're in this like hyper realistic kind of situation where you see every fur on Mr. Fox's face and you see him moving in the wind or whatever it is. But just how precise you have to be with stop motion and that kind of stuff really
adds. Like you get that shot of the grass like within the first few seconds of the movie, and I remember seeing that for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, and somebody sat there and did that one shot at a time.
It's an insane amount of detail. And Wes has only made one other stop motion project, which was Isle of Dogs in 2018, I think.
That sounds right.
Not nearly as good as this movie, still pretty good, but it's, I mean, clearly some development had happened between 2009 and 2018 in the stop motion world. There's a lot of like
it was
painstaking detail in that movie. There's one scene in particular where a guy's making sushi. It's just unbelievable. But overall, Fantastic Mr. Fox is what really like laid the groundwork for that, and 100 years of stop motion animation before that. But it's a really, really impressive project. I mean, it's just absolutely. It's a joy to look at, and there are some incredibly beautiful shots in this movie, which we'll talk about a little bit going into our favorite scenes. But my first favorite scene that I had down was probably the penultimate scene of the movie, which is when Mr. Fox is talking to his wife in the sewers.
In front of the waterfall.
In front of the waterfall.
Yeah,
and it's
I
just
have that one too.
That shot should be on everybody's bedroom wall. It's so unbelievably beautiful. But it's just a
quote
great
unquote
sequence.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I really I don't know how you're able to visualize something this well and then like bring it together. The lighting behind the waterfall just really, oh God bless. It's
that
so
was
magical.
Something I noted the other night when I was watching this. Is just like how crazy must it be to have a storyboard or like just these ideas that like in your head that you are able to put out exactly because that this is exactly what his vision was, and it just you can feel it. Like I don't know.
I completely agree, and I think that's why Wes is such a good fit for animation because
I think so too.
He is such a thoughtful person about his shots, and I've read a book about some of his ideology behind getting out what he has in his head, and it just becomes like a total group project. I mean, it's far from his avant-garde solo style. It's a collective effort by everybody, and it's just really amazing to see when it all comes together. So that was one of my favorite scenes, and that's about at the like 3/4 way of the movie. So I jumped ahead a little bit, but
like I said, I've got the whack bat scene as one of my favorite scenes.
Fantastic.
I think it's so fantastically animated. I think it's so fun. Who doesn't love a good baseball sequence?
Yeah, it's this sport that they've invented for this story, and it's basically, I mean, baseball / cricket with several more steps and fire and pine cones. It's
so great.
It's just so fun. Owen Wilson plays the whack-back coach in this, and he completely smashes it with this one scene. Like he is so palpable in this whole sequence.
I have as another one. You said the flaming pine cones, and I had to say something about the scene where they're coming up out of the sewer and they shoot all the flaming pine cones, which I oh my gosh, it's just so incredible that they animated all of this. Like, I will never shut up about it.
They're in the middle of like the human town square, and as part of the plan to get everybody back to where they need to be and stop having the animals hunted, they launch a bunch of fiery pine cones out of the sewer into the human town, and it just...
And it's like the way that one comes out, and then like Bogus Bunce and Bean like all look at each other, they're like, ha, these guys don't have anything, and then they launch like 500 just start shooting out, and like things around the town start catching on fire, and it's just like the chaos that descends. I love it. The
cotton smoke, everything is just so pitch perfect in this scene. I really love the opening 5 minutes of this. It's just got like such an amount of tone setting that it has to do, and it just sticks the landing on it, because there's that whole dynamic between Mr. and Mrs. Fox where you're flipping back and forth between each person's face as they're delivering their lines, and cutting as fast as you can to get that reaction time down to just a 0. I mean, because the audience during this is feeling not whiplash like you would feel if this sequence was cut improperly, but it really feels authentic and organic, and it feels like you're just watching a conversation between these two people.
It really works.
And the way that the Mrs. Fox drops like the "I'm pregnant" is so great. It's just in the dead middle of this conversation they're having in this foxtrot.
Is something else I love about this movie is I love the dialogue, and something I just can't rave enough about Wes. I think that he's fantastic. I think just he has such a gift for character writing and for dialogue, and he just gets it.
He totally does.
He just gets it.
And for him to be... This is not a departure for him. No. Aside from stylistically, like the animation, it really feels in line with all of his other work, and continues to be honed until, I think the peak at Grand Budapest Hotel. But he just knows how to do these snappy conversations.
He's just a man who has found, like we said this on the Grand Budapest pod, he's found his niche and like just live there. Yeah. Just stick there.
I truly love it.
Nails it. Okay, more favorite scenes. What else you got?
The final showdown. I think
breaking Christopherson out.
The last sequence of breaking Christopherson out, fighting the rabid dog.
Yes, I have two specific things from this sequence that I really love. One of which being the blueberry out of the little the dart thing, and they're knocking the dogs out. And then I also really love the shot when him, and I don't think it's Badger, I think it's Kylie? Or Kyle? I can't remember his name. I think it's Kylie. The crazy little, I don't even remember what animal he is, but anyways, they're climbing up the electric fence, and like every time they're touch all getting it, shocked. Every time they move, like it's a new
animation of them
being
in skeletal form being shocked. It's so great. I love. You can only do that in animation. I guess you can't. I mean, you could do that very easily with like Three Stooges slapstick comedy kind of stuff.
But it works.
But it works so great in this. I mean, it flexes his muscles so well. He's so good with being able to pull stuff like that off, like these sight gags where you're just chuckling. Like you can't help but laugh at this. And he's really pushing the envelope with a lot of that stuff in this. Like it just, we've already talked it to death about the dialogue, but just the way that he is able to keep you engaged with what's going on by just these rapid fire things that are happening. It's a little bit ADHD, but in a good way. Like it's very much just about the engagement. And ultimately, you know, when it comes to a movie, the best thing you can get is something that's going to engage you all the way through. And this certainly just
I was
going to
say, this is very much front to back. You're watching. I'm sat.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm paying attention.
Do you have any more favorite scenes?
I mean, the end sequence. I love the end sequence when they go into the grocery store and they're like, look at this heaven that we have stumbled upon and we don't have to worry
Foxes
about
are supposed to be
anymore.
allergic to linoleum.
And then the camera pans out from them, like, all dancing in the grocery store, which is also just so incredible. I'm going to get it back into that in a second. But it pans out and it's a Bogus Bunsen Bean grocery store.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love that because it's like,
They won. In the end, at the end of the day, they got their big heist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thematically, it's really interesting to see like Mr. Fox's journey throughout the course of this, because it's more or less like a midlife crisis. I mean, it's
100%.
It's entirely about him having been this epic burglar in his past, and now he's grappling with the fact that he's just
The glory days are behind him.
columnist, and he's got to do one last heist. He's got to see if he can get one last job in, and then it destroys everybody's lives. So he has to find a way to put it back on track and either solve everything or let everybody perish. So it just turns into like this meta commentary on Anderson, like trying to figure out what he's really supposed to be doing with his life, and I feel like Anderson is a really good one that lets himself bleed through into his work, and I think that's like what struck people about this so much, was that it's not Bottle Rocket, it's not Rushmore, it's not like these coming of age stories, or it's just like, what the hell do I do now? And
I would kind of argue that it is a coming of age story, just a different kind of.
It's
not
a coming of middle age story.
Yeah, but you also do have like Christopherson and Ash's storylines that are certainly could be considered coming of age.
Yeah, that's them getting past their differences and like recognizing the value of each other, and ultimately like the jealousy that's between them, because Christopherson is jealous of the family, and Ash is jealous of Christopherson's ability to just be successful in everything that he touches. And you know, that's a very true to life story, and I think that's a pretty valuable theme to to put across, especially, you know, because this movie isn't necessarily pandered towards kids or adults, and I think it can be watched by both as a family movie, and
that's
everybody can get something out of it.
One of my favorite things about this movie is the way that it is incredibly delightful from an adult perspective, but Wes also added famously, what the cuss.
Yeah.
He does not, there are no cuss words in this movie, they only say cuss. And I think that, like, I have as one of my favorite quotes. This is gonna be a total cluster cuss.
Yeah.
That's so great.
The continuous use of what the cuss throughout all of this. I mean, that is down just in general in my quotes, is any time that they just substitute any curse word for cuss. And it's just a fun.
I think that is just so enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like from an adult perspective, but also like it's still appropriate for kids, you know? Because
we were reminiscing around the dinner table at Thanksgiving the other night, and we were talking about
I wasn't there
a long time ago when Mom and Dad first got us a copy of The Goonies for Christmas.
Oh my gosh!
And they were like, "All right, so The Goonies has some testy stuff in it. Don't repeat anything that you see in this movie." You know, I was like 7 or 8 at this time, and it took me a grand total of 2 days to repeat one of the lines from the movie, which I shall not repeat here. But we lost our copy of The Goonies immediately after that. You're not going to have that experience with the Fantastic Mr. Fox and your kids.
No,
I mean,
no.
If they're walking around the house saying "what the cuss," that's an entirely different story.
That's a dub.
I personally think that there's a lot worse ways that you could manage stuff like this in a movie.
100%.
But it handles it with grace. I mean, there's no I guess exception to morality in this for the sake of comedy, which, you know, in a family movie is the most valuable thing you can offer. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
do you want to do themes or favorite lines?
let's do themes. I already kind of rattled off a little bit about
was gonna
mine
say.
with the midlife crisis stuff. So go ahead with.
Hi, I'm Emily Davis, and I like movies that have family themes. Big old fat parental themes in this one too. There's, like, we were kind of talking about the competition between Ash and Christopherson. You see a lot of it as like Ash and Fantastic Mr. Fox having this strange relationship where like Ash is always trying to prove himself to his dad, and his dad is always just trying to like
half-mindedly pay attention.
Yes, and like he validates him, but not enough, and I think that plays a lot into the competitiveness between Ash and Christopherson, and also there's just big competition energy throughout this whole movie. You got everything with the farmers and the animals, like almost having this war against each other.
Yeah, it's
not like one is really pursuing the other. It's like they're trying to sneak in, the farmers are trying to come get them. It's certainly more warlike.
Yeah, I mean, that is a real good like tale as old as time kind of thing, where you have this human component that just wants to take away from nature and use it selfishly for their own personal gain, and then you have the nature component where they're just trying to protect what they have. And I mean, look at Avatar, look at Final Fantasy, look at like there's so many different stories that involve this. And
Final Fantasy.
I know, I've been playing Rebirth, I can't stop thinking about it, but yeah, it's got this overlying, I guess underlying, really, like just through line where it's talking about this war between humanity and nature, and it doesn't like post that front and center, but it's a big central part of this movie
for sure. This is certainly more entertaining than enlightening.
Yeah,
but
I would definitely agree.
I think it like, I don't know, I guess a lot of the movies that we've covered are, it's hard for a movie to not be somewhat enlightening. Yeah, like I feel like there's always something to pull from a movie.
That's like the important thing about us talking about this stuff, is I like to be able to look for those themes, and
right.
You know, you don't have to go searching through a Jean-Luc Godard movie to find out like the deep complexities of life and the mental struggle and things like that, to just like have access to ideas like that. And I'm not saying that I don't love those movies, because I absolutely do. Like the more film nerdy that I get by the years, the more I'm like looking back on Wim Wenders' career and stuff like that. But you have to find the stuff that's accessible to everybody.
Yes,
in some
it
capacity.
It doesn't have to be that deep. It can be, and it's wonderful when it is, but it doesn't have to be. And
I appreciate when it's accessible enough for me to like, oh hey, let's watch this, and you don't have to watch 2 hours of Crime and Punishment-esque commentary where somebody's just like, I have to dig through all these slow burn ruminating sequences. I love that stuff. Not everybody does, and I like being able to provide those same themes without having to go through the drag. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I interrupted you. There's always the same awkwardness whenever you're watching a movie with somebody and you're trying to show someone something and you're like explaining it to them. There is not that with Fantastic Mr. Fox. You're like, here you go.
Have fun.
Look at the cover. You can judge this book by its cover.
Yeah, certainly. And that's valuable for a lot of people. So I'm glad that this movie operates on that level. And there's a lot of other movies that operate on that level that we've already talked about. And I'm glad for every one of them, because I think that there's a reason that they're as big as they are. And
this is certainly Wes's most accessible, though, and I think it's because he doesn't. I mean, it's PG. It's his only PG movie.
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to limit himself to, or he does have to limit himself in some capacity to make it accessible for everybody, which he perfectly executes on. Okay, let's move on to some favorite quotes.
Okay,
what do you got?
I love at the beginning of the movie, something we didn't mention is that Felicity Fox, Mr. Fox's wife, she paints. And she's painting this beautiful picture of a thunderstorm, and Mr. Fox says to her, "Still painting thunderstorms, I see." She goes, "Do you still feel poor?" And he says, "Less so." And I just love that. I just eat that up, because it's right after you see them at the very beginning of the movie having been trapped, and she tells him that she's pregnant, and they kind of like have this discussion about like what's going to happen if they don't get out, and like just how life can go sour or whatever, and they're talking about how he feels poor and all that, and I just immediately off the bat, "You still feel poor? Less so."
Yeah,
I love that.
I do love it too.
Just sweet.
one character that we forgot to mention throughout the course of this, who does have a pretty good arc overall, is Willem Dafoe's Rat.
Oh my gosh, I love the rat.
So he lives in the basement of one of the farmers, and more or less just like feeds off of them and wants to protect that lifestyle. So he's
like
against the rest of the animals. Yeah. So he functions as like this guard, but he's really just doing it for selfish purposes. Eventually they get to the point where him and Mr. Fox have the showdown. The rat loses. He ends up dying in just like a very funny sequence. And Mr. Fox says, redemption? Sure. But in the end, he's just another dead rat in a garbage pail behind a Chinese restaurant. And
I have to say, I forgot to mention this earlier when we were talking about favorite scenes. I love when the rat calls Mrs. Fox a tart, or like she's like, she was the town tart, and Mr. Fox is like, hey, we were young, everyone got around. I love the way that he jumps to her defense and like not like doesn't like deny it. He's just like, you know what, people be living, move on. I love that. Not a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah, my obvious one, which could, I mean, be on the banner for this movie, is I don't want to live in a hole anymore. I mean, that pretty much sums up like his whole crisis. And
I love when him and I think it's Kylie, maybe it's Badger, are getting ready for a heist. I don't know what you're talking about, but it feels illegal. Here, put this bandit hat on.
Here, put this bandit hat on.
I don't know. Maybe you're a medium. Don't wear it around the house.
It's put this bandit hat on is probably my most used quote from this movie. That and I don't want to live in a hole.
Well, that and different. You guys can't see me, but I just waved my hands around my face.
I'm going to lose my temper now. That's a good one from Felicity Fox. She is in a heated argument with
Meryl
Mr. Fox.
Is so good in this movie.
She's
she
like,
does not get...
I'm going to lose my temper now.
I think, like... I don't know. I think we have not given her enough berries throughout this
no.
pod. She's so good.
Honestly, we're blowing through a lot of this, and I'm a little distracted, but we're...
Holiday weekend.
It's been a weekend. We've been moving all kinds of stuff around.
Crazy.
What was the... Oh, yeah. He's rabid with rabies.
Yes.
That's another good one.
We took everything. They took everything. Mr. Fox returning from the heist with all of the stuff, and then it immediately jumping to Bogus, and I love it. I just love lines that kind of like double up on each other like that.
Yeah, it's barely a dialogue exchange because there's no actual exchange happening. It's more of Mr. Fox talking at him, but at the end of the movie, he sees the wolf like we were talking about earlier, and
Canis
it's just
lupus.
Vulpus Vulpus. It's just this conversation between them. He's like, I don't think he speaks English or Latin.
Seems like he doesn't. He doesn't seem to speak English or Latin. That's what it is.
Yeah, and at one point they're standing far apart, so he's just yelling at the wolf and trying to get a response from him, and the wolf just raises a fist in solidarity, and Mr. Fox raises a fist back and then just runs off. I mean, it's just a great little exchange. I mean, it's a perfect little bow on top of the movie.
Am I being flirted with by a psychotic rat?
Yeah.
I just had to throw that one in there too because I forgot to mention it. Oh god, we did really glaze over a lot of this movie, but it's not like we won't be talking about it some more. We'll talk about this movie till the day I die.
Yeah, it's such fun stuff.
And then, of course, we have, like, the very last line, and it's, I'm pregnant again. Wow, I think we're both glowing. And instead of the same puppets that we've been seeing the whole time for Mr. and Mrs. Fox,
they use, like, silicone...
Like little light-up figures like you would see in, like, a Christmas nativity or something. But there's so these little fox guys, and they're, like, glowing from the inside out. It's amazing.
It's such a good little bit. Yeah, he just has the ability to, like, switch things up like that, and... like you would not have expected it at all.
No, but it's not jarring in any way.
No, certainly not. Okay, how about some fun facts? Let's move on to some fun facts.
Okay, speaking of puppets, 535 puppets.
Woo!
56,000 shots.
That's about par for the course for stop motion stuff.
I know, but that's just, I mean, just put that number in the people's minds. 535 puppets is insane. They pretty famously recorded a lot of the lines outside, just to kind of add to the natural ambiance, and it works so well. I love all the behind scenes stuff of George Clooney, like riding on the motorbike, eating the breakfast. Like, I eat that. I love it so much. I think that that's delightful that that Wes decided to film them.
I think it makes
in that way.
It makes those lines like so well delivered. It totally paid off.
It feels so much more like you're in that moment more.
The colors of this movie, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's an autumnal color palette. I mean, it's browns and yellows and oranges and reds.
So cozy.
There's virtually no green or blue in this movie except for Christopherson to highlight him as an outsider. Just a fun feature, and I mean, it totally works for the palette of this whole movie. I mean, it very much, like I said at the top of this, is just one of those fall movies that you can throw on, and it's got so much fall stuff in it.
And Wes Anderson pretty famously dresses like in an autumnal palette for the most part, with some pastels occasionally, but he also used his own suit fabric for Mr. Fox's puppet. Isn't that cool? It's so like just a little Wes Anderson guy.
During one of the outdoor dialogue recording sessions, the best take was almost ruined by the sound of a nearby boat. Wes decided to include an airplane in the shot just to get rid of the reason for the sound being there. So yeah, they just had that little bit in there, and way to go, way to go, and just be creative with the editing when you do stuff like that.
Okay, this is gonna maybe spark a conversation about the soundtrack, which we did not touch, but this was the composer's first time using a banjo on a score, and brother killed it. Yeah. And also, wow, what a great soundtrack! What a great soundtrack!
Yeah, it's very, very fun. I mean, it's just it's perfectly toned to the movie. There's a couple of like vocal sequences that are really good that have to deal with the farmers, Bogus Bunsen Bean. They have like a theme song that plays.
Bogus Bunsen Bean.
Yeah, it's just really, really fun. And
there's a great little sequence of, and I can't even remember exactly how it comes about, but it's just like a bunch of people playing banjo music out in the sticks. Just some boys playing some bluegrass, and it's great.
Throughout the movie, we talked about this, but the word cuss is used in place of actual cussing. When asked about its origin in a radio interview, Wes Anderson said, "I don't even remember. I think it was just the use of the concept of profanity as a replacement for the profanity itself. It turns out to be very versatile, and in keeping with the theme, one of the buildings seen in this movie bears the spray paint graffiti cuss."
Oh my gosh, I had not noticed that.
I just love that.
That's amazing.
It's nice, charming little things.
We've kind of talked a lot about how much we love stop motion, but I have to say, they only use CGI one time in this movie.
One sequence.
Do you know what it was?
It's when they're escaping the sewers. It's when they're getting flooded out of the sewers.
It's the flood. Yeah. It's when they get flooded by apple cider.
Yeah. That's about all the fun facts I had.
Yeah, so final rating of this movie. What you got for Fantastic Mr. Fox? 1 out of 10.
This is a 9 out of 10 for me.
One on a scale of 1 to 10. Not a 1 out of 10 for me.
We love it. Sucks.
1 out of 10. Yeah, 9
out of 10 for me.
9.5 maybe. I don't know. I really do love this movie.
It isn't that deep. Doesn't need to be. It's just a fun watch. I mean, like we already said about the entertaining and enlightening are both. This can be both if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be. You can just watch it and enjoy it, and it's a perfect movie. Curl up on the couch with a blanket and a gallon of apple cider. But it's got to be hot apple cider.
It does. Double features. I've got a few because I do. Kind of going with animal themed movies. I saw a lot of recommendations for Paddington 2 as a double feature with this.
Yeah.
Isle of Dogs, pretty obvious. Wes Anderson's other stop motion, great movie. We've talked ad nauseum about Adam Elliott, but that was also, I tried to avoid putting this down as a double feature, but looking into it, everyone was recommending it, and I was like, how can I not mention it? And then also Wallace and Gromit.
Wallace and Gromit for sure. I think Chicken Run was another one that I had
very
down.
Much.
Just quick stop motion stuff, and golly, Mel Gibson is really funny in that movie. He's not exactly, not exactly the best nowadays, but he's really funny in that movie. I anything stop motion animated is going to tickle your fancy compared to this, and if nothing else, your visual palette, some consistent like thematic stuff between them. Emily mentioned I Love Dogs. That's what I had from. If you like that, you'll like this. Mm-hmm. It's a little more adult. It does not substitute the use of cuss.
No.
And
that's the one you watch Fantastic Mr. Fox with your kids. They go to bed, you turn on Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, if you're really looking for more of very similar style, you're going to get it with I Love Dogs. So yeah, I guess that's more or less it. I mean, we're kind of short on this one, so we'll kind of pad for time by saying that this weekend roundup we will be talking about Gladiator 2 and Moana 2.
Hopefully I'll
both
be
of
able
which
to...
are sequels. Which
I'm booked solid this weekend. I have no idea when I'm going to get to see Moana before we record, but I will be seeing...
Eventually is the answer to that.
It's not a priority for me. Moana 2 is not a priority.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I've been
Disney.
hearing some rumblings on that one. I've kind of talked about a few of the issues with it. It was originally intended to be a TV show. Lin-Manuel Miranda is no longer attached to it. It's sounding like that took some pretty heavy blows against the movie. So we'll go check it out and we'll let you guys know for sure. And we'll also open up a small conversation about sequels in general, because this has been a year of sequels.
For sure.
And there's some statistics and just a conversation that I want to have about that. So we'll get back to that in the weekend roundup. We are also going to be flying out to Washington State at the end of next week, so we're going to be pretty busy next weekend. I don't think we're going to have a weekend roundup.
Or if we do, it'll be delayed.
Yeah.
Well,
we may do just like a short little something through voice notes, but yeah, we'll kind of just see how that all pans out. So don't steel yourselves. We may be going on another short break here. But other than that, we will definitely be doing our weekend roundup at some point this weekend. Hopefully have that out on Monday morning. We're going to go ahead and post this one today and get it out there so you guys listen to it. Have a great rest of your Black Friday week if you're still hunting down sales. Enjoy the last clutches of fall because it is now 28 degrees outside.
It's cold.
And yeah, we'll catch you guys at the movies.
Yeah, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy holiday.
Happy holiday.